ritual takes place here.
Okay, last week we had an equipment malfunction, so we're going to redo a little bit of what we did last week, but not quite the same. We talked about last week the importance of uniforms and why it's important to get your students in the right uniform. From a legendary sensei standpoint, if you get people coming to the line that don't have all their equipment, they're really not paying attention to what they're doing, which means when they're on the mat, that translates out there, they're not going to pay attention to what they teach, and that's going to get people killed. Unlike elementary school, when you screw up, somebody else may fix that along the way. Well, if you screw up out here on the mat, they die on the street. So it's a really big difference about why we feel so important about our equipment, right? It also tells you how they feel about you as a teacher. And as a teacher, you help people try to get prepared to go to war, prepared to survive an earthquake, prepared to go to work with all their equipment, presentations. If you get married, geez, I forgot the ring, sweetie. That stuff just doesn't work, you know? So it starts here with your class, okay? Getting people in the right frame of mind that they actually start to think about their gear and what they're going to need for the day, okay? And have it ahead of time, and in some cases, duplicates. I should take you all upstairs where I have like piles and piles of gear. My problem is, where is all my gear? Well, I try to organize my gear. Lean saw me running around trying to find gear. Of course, after you reconstruct your house and everything is taken out. Did you see that garbage bag in the front? That's all my dry cleaning. None of my suits, none of my shirts made it. I don't know how many hundreds of dollars that's going to be, but there you go. Okay, so equipment's really, really important. Protection equipment for sure. Like, unfortunately, I got Aaron Sensei without a cup. So everybody's got cups. You have got a cup on, right? Women don't wear cups. They do have pads. There are some places that force you guys to wear pads there. We don't. We'll try to be careful about that. So last week we also talked a lot about why people bow in, why they don't bow in, fun and learning, and I'll try to sift a little bit of that along the way. Bowing in, we usually bow in wherever the mat is, wherever you're training, that's your mat, okay? People bow in respectful of the mat, like they're going to leave their silly problems, earthly problems behind and get on the mat with the martial arts stuff. And that's really important. It isn't so much like, I remember when, you might remember this, when we had the dojo, the little dojo up here, there was a World War II veteran who was really very much against the Japanese culture. So when he saw us bowing, he says, "What are you doing with all that Jap crap?" Okay? But what he didn't understand is the bowing in their culture is a sign of respect, like our handshakes are a sign of respect. And by the way, our handshakes also show that we don't have a weapon in our hands. Did you all know that? Okay? When people salute, do you know where that came from? Knights needed to see each other, so they raised their hood so they could look at each other's eyes. Okay? That was a salute and a sign of respect with each other. That's why we salute today. Many of the old things that we do have real good grounding in the arts and in the warrior arts. And bowing for us is a sign of, okay, I recognize you, you recognize me, we're going to do something, we're clearing off our plate, we're going to start doing this stuff. When you bow on the mat, the same kind of thing. You want to make sure that you leave your earthly problems behind, which is half the fun. I remember Master Lewis, who was behind the camera. One day he came and he kind of waltzed in, and he's kind of a larger stature, so he kind of hunched over, came in the dojo, got him on the mat, and all of a sudden he started standing up straight. He had a good time. He goes, "Wow, I had all these problems when I came here. Well, I haven't remembered a single one of them for several hours. How cool is this?" You know, that's the kind of classes you guys want to learn to teach. People are having fun. People are learning. Fun and learning have to be connected. And I know it's a little on the dry side, but we're going to sift this out. We're going to go back through some of our white belt stuff for a little while, and then we're going to break out and do some other fun stuff. So without any further ado, let us find a spot out here, I guess, in the sunlight that we'll do this. So let's go. Okay, Miss Wasserman, come on out. Miss Wasserman did such an excellent job teaching several weeks ago, that she's going to start handling most of our white belt stuff on the way in. And I think Matthias is going to end up with the blue belt stuff, and you're going to end up with the first blue stuff. So start paying attention. And I know I need to get the first blue manual out too, okay? Does everybody here have a syllabus? Oh. You can just hit the print button on the computer and get your syllabus, right? Do you go to the site at all? Uh, there's a download capability, but you really do want to purchase, no, the Cafe Press one, you do want to purchase the ones that fit in our pockets, right? We can take them on the mat with us. I guarantee you when you start working a syllabus, which keeps everybody on the same page, because we all interpret things differently, thank God. That's a cool part of human beings. We all interpret the same thing differently. But in the sake of teaching, it drives teachers crazy, because what I teach and Miss Wasserman will be teaching should be pretty much the same thing all the way along. That's why we did the Marine Corps stuff. We did 13 discs, filmed them, took us 3 months to do it. Everybody's still on the same page. We have the same problem. Every martial art has that same problem. What you teach and what you end up teaching and you go to Germany and end up teaching, when they all get together, they all should look pretty much the same, you know? So working off a syllabus is really important. A syllabus also does something else. In the old school, legendary senseis used to force you to keep a notebook. Every technique we do, you write it down, step by step by step by step, drawings. If it's important enough to live and learn, it's important enough to document. So the things we always talked about. I've gotten a little lax on that. Some people aren't. But your syllabus, think of this now, is something that when you are a master and you're on your deathbed, you're going to be handing that down like a document to whomever it is you want. So that's a legacy issue. And you want to be able to go back, because I can guarantee you there's so much in this art, you will not remember it, okay, unless you go teach it each and every day. And still some cases, I go back and say, well, what did I do there? You know? So if you have a notebook that you can go back and reference, our syllabus is the 35-year-old syllabus right now. We're working off the non-commercial syllabus. That's what you guys are learning. We do have a commercial syllabus too. So if you start teaching kids, you're not teaching them this stuff. If you start teaching normal adults, you're not teaching them this stuff. Okay, there's a little bit of a whitewashed version. Okay, broken up differently. But if you don't know your art, right? If you don't know what's in white belt, for example, how many hand arts there are, what the names are, how to teach them, all the things that are in your handbook, then you're not doing us any good. Okay, so there's part of that lesson that you are here to learn. Then take it serious and learn it. Yes, we're here to have fun too. And we got to do that. We seem to have enough fun. We don't have fun with the fun part. So making sure that that happens. And I told a little dirty secret this morning. Miss Wasserman was going through her little syllabus, as a good student ought to, because I said you're going to be teaching white belt. And she goes, wow, these words don't really match what I remember. Well, some of those words aren't right, guys, on purpose. So when you get this syllabus, right, and you read that and go, ooh, don't think that one's right. Better check that out. See, now you got a student who's paying attention, right? So now I've laced all the syllabuses with somewhat of errors that you have to find. Okay? That shows me that you're being serious. Now, you guys have had your syllabus for how long? Oh, it's been a while, huh? The other thing that's really, do you have your syllabus on you?
No.
Can you grab it real quick?
Which one?
White belt. Okay? The syllabuses are designed to have your notes in them. I can guarantee you, I can probably look at everybody that has one and they don't have any notes in them. Wrong answer, guys. And girls. When I say guys, by the way, I mean everybody, right? I hate this guys and girls thing. So, there's sections for notes. Don't let them be blank next week. Have at least a sticky saying, I'm working on it. Yes. Oh, can I see it? Please? Okay. So you want to make sure. Now, let's say, for example, I assign you, Marty Bell, to do white belt test, white to blue. You should be having this a week ahead of time and reading their material, making sure that it's accurate, making notes where it isn't, and asking them to correct it. Okay? Sometimes it's 2 weeks ahead of time, so they have a week to fix it, right? That's the theory behind these. And then these are designed to fit in our cargo pocket. So, you know, if you're out here working, like if I'm asking Miss Wasserman to work out here and she needs to refer to something, I don't want to see her running off the mat. It goes in her pocket when she's having to teach that white belt syllabus level material. Otherwise, they'll get too beaten up. Put it on your left side. Just open both buttons and slide it in there and turn it 90 degrees and you're good to go. There we go. Okay, here, let me just show the camera that. Okay? Voila, Simon, alias Simone, okay? But that's the kind of stuff you want to start seeing with your students so they really start to understand the technique. You must have something with that in teaching, right? Sam, don't you, when you teach kids, don't you ask them to have notes? Or maybe that's old school. Yeah. And they don't even bring pencils anymore, right? Crazy stuff. Crazy. Crazy. Oh, laptops. There you go. Yeah. Well, you want to see something. So that's a real importance for a notebook. Teacher types. If you don't have notebooks, start developing notebooks. It's really, really important. Oh, and here's another fun part about notebooks. A notebook usually is a 3-ring binder because we end up producing a lot of material and throwing it in there in addition to these particular books. But if they leave it around and you can steal it, we play steal the notebook. Okay? Like when you're not looking, if your notebook's hanging out, I can go steal it. And you got to pay me $20 to get it back. Beer money. So, but what that develops in the student is a sense of awareness about where his equipment, his or her equipment is, right? And that starts to instill streetwise techniques, which we're going to talk about today. There's 4 ways to avoid getting attacked on the street. And the first one is awareness, right? So as teacher types, you've got to start lacing in awareness almost right off the bat before they even know it. If you're a legendary sensei, legendary teachers start to do that. Your students don't need to understand it. Later they'll understand what you're doing. And I'm kind of being more forthright because that's what I'm trying to do with the legendary teaching series here. But that awareness is extremely important. The other things that will happen is that you'll get shot with a blowgun on the way in. Never thought it would happen. Wasn't looking. Wrong answer. Just because we're familiar in our surroundings, that's where attacks happen. Most attacks happen at your house or nearby, within 5-mile radius. You're familiar. It's your territory. And because of that familiarity, you should also be more in tune to, hey, that gate didn't sound right. Ooh, I just heard something, you know? So that kind of awareness should always be relegated quickly into your students, okay? So we can always play the steal equipment game and steal the notebook game. It's not that we want the $20. $20 makes it hurt. $20 adds value. If something's free, they don't usually value it. Okay. So, all right. Well, I want to cover really quickly our 4 basic hand arts in white belt again. Okay. Sorry for the repeat, but we're not going to have an equipment failure this week with any luck. Okay. The first one we have, which is the hardest one for students to learn. I don't know why. Again, I guess I picked the wrong thing starting out of the starting blocks here back historically, but it's called basic escape to the rear. What you'd like to be able to do is to teach some very clever things. And in white belt, we actually have things that are laced in a white belt series that actually transition on to green belts and later belts, but your students don't have to know that. That's the clever part about this stuff. They don't need to know anything. It's important that you know where it is. And so when you're teaching this, you're going to get those pieces down really well because they're going to use it later on. Don't tell them it's an advanced thing. Don't tell them anything. Later on, they'll figure that out, okay? Otherwise, typically students don't want to learn the basics. I want to do the really fast acting stuff. You know, give me that stuff. Well, if you're doing fun and learning, always connect it together. Your techniques ought to be laced with this stuff, and they don't ever know it, but they're always having fun, okay? And I'm spending far too long talking in this case, but we've got to do this. Okay. So the first thing we do, if you will reach across and grab me, okay, grab the right hand. That'll go a little, well, you know what? That's right. Okay. Bad right knee. Don't like to step back, but it's going to happen. So I'll have to modify ever so slightly, which is also another important point. Every one of us takes injuries and every one of us comes to the mat with a different problem. So your techniques have to help get over that. Come on the mat. Backed by popular demand, our Polish assassin is now making his way onto the mat. Damien, okay? Without a button. Yeah. Okay, that's all right. We won't look. Okay. All right, so the first thing y'all noticed is that I did not stick my hand out there to get grabbed. Because on the street, you're not going to stick your hand out there. They're going to actually go grab you, like this. First thing we do is relax, right? Because if I start to struggle, they're going to hold on tighter, right? And that's not a good thing. So I learned to relax. Now, if I wind up to do something, she's going to hold on tighter. So any technique that has to wind up to do something or get into a stance, Not a good self-defense technique. Okay. So, oh gosh, I've been grabbed. What do they want? Start a dialogue, whatever. To begin this technique, I'm going to roll back on my heels. So I actually start to fall if I don't catch myself. Okay. Perception-wise, I'm still just standing here. I haven't taken a stance. She doesn't have any real visual cues that I'm doing anything, which is just what you want to do. I'm going to roll back. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let my arm, and this is the hard part, completely remain relaxed like a wet rope. Okay. Now she can hardly actually having a hard time holding on to my wet rope already. Okay. And then I'm just kind of using my body to pull out my arm, and you can see. Well, let's get the police assassin in here. We can stand right here and watch. Okay. My Arnold Schwarzenegger, you all remember him as a little wimp? Look at these eyes. Okay, hold me tight. See, if I'm really loose like this, he's already having a hard time holding on to me. Okay? And that's just using my body turn, no muscle. But if I tense my arm, he can hang on all day long. See that? And he did. Okay? So if you give him more to hang on to, that's not a good thing. All right, so I'm going to roll back. Now, what we want to do is that, given the size of Miss Wasserman, you can have kids do this. None of our techniques are based on strength. They're based on angles, leverage, natural body function, whatever. In this case, I'm using my body weight, which is not as considerable as it used to be, but it's still up there, okay, to help me get this escape, right? So as I roll back, I'm going to release my right foot and take a large step back, like so. Notice both my legs are going this way. In case the police assassin were to attack my knee, I'm not moving it, okay? He's hitting a rubber band. Versus, had I done this, it's all over, right? Boom, broken knee. Teacher types. So you want to make sure that that's in a safe position, like so. My hand was up here. The best way to tell when it's perfect, our arms are going to be at the same height when the escape happens. And you can teach your kids the way bye-bye. Bye-bye. You will see escapes like the following. They'll yank up. If that hand's way up there, that was not good. They had to use energy in their arm to reach up there. Remember, this is the technique about our body. Our body weight is going to be leading this, just like this, okay? This is the pull. So, I'm relaxed. I'm rolling back. I'm making my escape, okay? Then I'm coming up into our open horse stance. Open, not closed. Open horse stance, okay? Now, I'm going to use Miss Wasserman. Women types. Oh, teacher types. With every technique we have, there are variations. You might even make up some of your own variations, which is kind of the fun, creative part of Anjing Bonfa. But in this case, we teach this to women's self-defense. I'm going to reach across and grab Miss Wasserman without her lifting up her arm for me because I'm old. She's going to move with me. No, move with me, walk with me. And now when we get speed, now turn around and go the other way. Boom. I don't know if the camera caught that. But what's really cool about that is you teach them, remember how we always want to stay relaxed? So you come with me. This is the time in the attack sequence where they're going to be questioning whether you're really going to go along with them, right? If you're going to go along with me, there's no reason for me to hold tight, is there? And she's out and gone before we know it. And it's like, bye-bye. So when we teach this stuff to, grab me again, when we teach this stuff to our people, our kids, to have fun, you usually take the biggest, burliest guy, right? And you pop out, bye-bye, leave me alone, bye-bye. And they start laughing. Did that really happen? They start laughing. Did that really happen? What are we doing? Two things, fun and learning, right? Never forget you're part of a showman out here. You got to be. You got to be a showman. You got to be a little rock star, okay? Have a little following, right? Rock stars are no different. Matter of fact, they're not even as good musicians in many cases as some of the good musicians that don't ever become rock star status because they were blended in, they were modest. People don't come to your mat to have a modest teacher. Oh my gosh, this might work. Well, if you do it this way, you know. That's terrible. Terrible mat dynamics for teaching. So that's the first phase. Any questions on our first technique, which is called?
Every 3 years, an ancient ritual takes place here.